Allie, guess what?
What?
We're actually doing one of these at a reasonable time for once.
I know.
I know this is like not normal for us. Usually when we do like BB Can or Big Brother videos, we're doing it like a week after this is happening. It's not relevant anymore. But
yeah, we're gonna be covering the last 2 weeks just because it's a little behind.
Yes, we are 2 weeks behind, but we're caught up. And the eviction was tonight.
We're caught up on the episodes. Just caught up. We just need to catch up on the podcast.
Yes. So welcome to another episode of A Conversation with Kely. This is episode 78. Of course, I'm joined by my lovely and beautiful co-host, Allie. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I had a very chill day. I was just enjoying my last day off before I work this weekend.
That's good. That's always good. But yeah, as Allie alluded to, we are going to be talking about the last 2 weeks of Big Brother Canada 10. Holy shit, a lot has happened since we last discussed this show. All I will say is if we are able to continue hitting the mark that we have in these last 2 weeks, this is going to go down as one of the best seasons, I think, in Big Brother history. This season is so chaotic. I think there are very few players that aren't giving me at least some form of entertainment. And that's very rare when it comes to something like this. I think just all around this turning out to be such a crack season in the best way possible. But I think we should just get into it, Allie, because there's a lot to discuss here.
It's a very cracked and entertaining season.
Very much so. Very much so. So like I said, we are going to start off talking about the first week here, which what a doozy of a week we have to cover. I mean, this was last year for BB23, we had Frenchie's HOH, and I'm not going to lie, I think we had an HOH that might have been worse. I really do. What we get this week of Big Brother Canada is just insane. Everything that happens this week, it like sounds like a fan fiction. It doesn't sound like something that would actually happen, and yet it does. But we're gonna just get into it. So Jess was not surprised to see Jay go, but wasn't expecting the vote count. If you remember, there was a very close vote for Jay and Jess. And Kyle immediately admits that the second rogue vote was him or Jay and Betty. And Kyle immediately admits that the second rogue vote was actually him and that he knew Betty was staying. So he just wanted to give Jay a courtesy vote. Immediately just setting up how messy Kyle is going to be, I think.
He's such a crackhead.
I know. This was such a weird move. Like, I don't know why he just outright admitted that he was like one of the rogue votes in front of everyone. And that's the thing with Kyle is that he likes to do everything like in public. He doesn't like to hide anything. He likes to be very like upfront in that way. And I think this was just really kind of setting the stage for the kind of week we were about to get with him.
I agree.
So Jess is very annoyed that this happened because now they're going to think it's them and assures Kyle that they didn't vote that way. And Kyle then admits that he did this to paint Jess in a suspicious light, which he now realizes someone else did, which will help pin the target on them that much better. Hermon also hopes the target is going to go back on Jess. We talked about this before. Hermon is still very focused on getting Jess out. Hermon is really against Jess and things like that. And it hasn't come to bite him yet, but I think it's going too soon. For sure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
With the way things are playing out. But Jess confesses to Betty that they didn't vote for her, which I think was good for them to do. Kyle's very excited. We cut to the HOH, and Kyle's very excited to have won this HOH, and he decides to compare notes on his alliances. And Moose feels that he's in a really good spot, knowing that he's in 2 alliances with Kyle. All I will say to that is LOL. That is all I will say. And we'll get into why. But Kyle talks about all of the alliances that he's in. He has a new alliance known as the Retreat, which is with Hermon and Gino. He also is strong with JL and Steph, and he has a final 2 with Gino. And he feels that this week he just needs to like instill fear in everyone. And going into this week, when it came to Kyle's HOH, I thought this was going to be pretty straightforward. I did not think we would be anywhere near the level of like train wreck that we end up getting. I thought that this was going to be kind of a boring week. He would have a set target of what he wants to do, but that could not be further from the truth, because my God, this guy is a mess.
He is.
And I think, but I do think what he, set up here, it seemed like, okay, at least he knows who he's good with. He knows who's not going to go up. And Jess feels that the way things are going are quite boring. They talk to JL and confess that they didn't cast the rogue vote and doesn't understand why everyone is blaming them and feels that they're on an island. And JL is frustrated this happened and feels bad that it happened. They still don't feel good and plan to pitch hard to people to avoid going on the block. One thing I will say about Jacey-Lynne right off the bat, she never talks a game to anyone. Like, she's never the one to initiate conversations. People come to her. She doesn't come to them. And I think that's what's really, like, among the fact that she's just not a good person. The thing that's like really frustrating me about Jacey-Lynne is that she doesn't try to initiate any sort of game conversation. It's always like someone's going to her. She's never going to them. And I think that's really going to hurt her in the end.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, she needs to like start playing.
Yeah, she's really not. She's just kind of like chilling, and it's like, she thinks she's on vacation or something. Like, it's just not very good to watch. And I mean, like, she hasn't been playing well, but I think this is really like the thing that's like frustrating me the most when it comes to her. So Josh talks to Betty about how close he was to winning the HOH, and Betty feels that Kyle winning is the worst thing for her game and that she likely will be going back on the block as a potential pawn. And this is what's so cracked about Betty here. Betty spends this entire week so convinced that she's going on the block, that she's getting backdoored, that she's the person in play, and yet, well, we'll talk about what happens. But good week for Betty. All I'm going to say, good week for Betty. I think Betty is honestly trying to do what Jess is doing, but like a lot better, where it's like, Jess is constantly using the same pitch over and over again. Betty is really doing what she can to show that like she's not a threat and she's getting in with people. And I think because of it, Betty does have a really solid chance of getting far in this game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, all around, I think this was a really strong week for Betty. But Josh is very annoyed that Kyle won HOH, and Jess decides to talk to Kyle, hoping to persuade him. They bring up how alone they are and that they can be a real asset for his game and wouldn't have been a target. And he admits that they're really strong and that he feels they are the only person that can take him out, and they feel that they should work together for that reason. Something I notice here is that Jess really just kind of says the same exact pitch to everyone, every single HOH. And it's like
they're just not the best strategists at all.
No, they're really not. That's my thing, is like there's no real variety in terms of these pitches, and after a while it's like
they're not really good at campaigning.
And the problem with saying like, oh, I'm on an island, I'm all alone, I'm a big target, it's like, if you're not on the block constantly, which Jess hasn't been, Jess has only been on the block at this point week 1, it's just not going to work after a while. And I hope Jess recognizes that. Like, I think this is going to be like the downfall of their game, is that they're basically just saying the same thing to everyone. And I don't think that's a good way to go about this.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so I think that really is going to be the thing that ends up hurting Jess overall. But Kyle does feel won over by everything they have said and that they could actually potentially work something out. Betty then says that it doesn't matter who voted against her, but she just wants to spice it up a bit. So she feels that JL is safe with Gino on her side. JL then brings up that she wouldn't be the showman's boot and is here to play, which I beg to differ. Like, you want to play, like, I'm not seeing that. I don't buy that at all. But Betty confesses to her that she believes a guys alliance consisting of Kyle, Marty, and Gino is a thing. And JL says that she doesn't want a guy to win the season, but she's working very closely with Kyle, Hermon, and Gino. So it doesn't really seem like she wants to do anything about it. And this was such a frustrating conversation, because like Betty is clearly trying to like work out something with Jacey-Lynne, and Jacey-Lynne's just like not here for it. She's like, I have my people, I'm going to stick with my people, and I'm not going to try to deviate in any way. And it's like, so boring. It's so boring to watch, and it doesn't benefit her in any way. And I don't think she realizes that like she very much is on the bottom of that group. Like she's not as good with people as she thinks she is. And I just don't see Jacey-Lynne going far at all. I think she's probably going to end up being the first juror at this point.
Oh, yeah. I can
either first juror or last pre-juror. Like that's where I see her going. I don't see her getting far at all.
I can see with Jacey-Lynne.
Yeah.
I can see her being like first juror.
Yeah. So she basically, Betty talks to Kyle and says that she can be a number on his side and that he isn't her target. She doesn't feel good after this conversation due to how little of a response that he gives to her. And I would not blame Betty for this conversation at all. I would 100% blame Kyle because he seems so disinterested throughout this entire conversation, almost like he was 100% putting her up. There was nothing she could do to stop him from doing so. And it just really came out looking bad in this conversation.
Oh yeah, very.
Especially if Betty's not your target, why are you going about this conversation in the way you are? It's just one of many things Kyle did this week that made no sense whatsoever. I just did not understand what he was trying to do in this conversation. Like Betty's giving him is trying to ask him questions. He's not answering like any of them. Just really bad overall, especially in terms of what happens. But let's get more into the cracked week. Allie's going to talk about it.
All right. Kyle is feeling like he's running out of names due to how many people he's aligned with. Moose brings up how he and Kyle are acquaintances from university, and he feels he can use this to her advantage.
They know each other.
He throws out Steph, which Summer, Gino, and Jess have also brought up. He feels JL's a more worthy asset to keep around, and he assures Moose he is safe.
And here's the thing when it comes to this is like, yeah, here's the thing when it comes to what Moose was doing. I get what Moose was doing. I think this made sense for Moose, but I think what Kyle should have realistically done with this information, keep this in his back pocket. When Steph's name is out there, he can use that as a reason to target her, but don't target her now. Like you're in an alliance with her. She's not going to vote against you. It's just like
a more worthy asset to keep would be just Steph over JL.
Yeah, honestly, I do think Steph is probably a better ally than Jacey-Lynne because Jacey-Lynne isn't really playing the game that much. She doesn't have very good reads on things, and especially
the only thing she did for her game was win a veto.
Yeah, like for Steph, like at least the way she acts this week definitely shows like she's here to play the game. Like just really horrible move all around. And Kyle should not really have done anything with this information. He should have just listened to it, kept in his back pocket, and used it when it was necessary, which I feel like is what a rational human being would do. But that's not who Kyle Moore is. Kyle Moore is anything but rational. And let's talk about what he ends up doing instead.
All right. He talks to JL and tells her his plan. He brings up how Jess could become someone for them, and Steph has a lot of people in their direction, and if they got her, they will be sitting with the numbers. JL brings up how she doesn't want everyone to pick off the girls one by one, and he assures her a guy's alliance doesn't exist. JL feels that by the looks of it, the retreat is basically dead.
You can't make this up. You cannot make this up. Kyle is literally turning on someone that he knows he's in alliance with, knows that he's good with, and just wants to like throw them away. I just did not understand this move at all. The way that basically he just like unceremoniously like ended the retreat, it just terrible, absolutely terrible. And it's not even close to the amount of things he does wrong this week.
Oh, I know. Kyle tells Steph he's putting her up, and she questions him, asking him why. She's very upset and annoyed he's considering nominating her. She says she never would have nominated him and has never said anything negative about his game. She wonders why they were even in an alliance if he was going to target her. He says he's skeptical based on what he's been told, and she assumes Moose was one of the people, which he confirms.
Yeah, this conversation was so good, especially because, like, you guys know preseason, I did not like Steph at all. I did not think that she was going to play very well. I assumed that she was going to be in, like, a showmance or something like that. But she really proved, I think, here that she's here to play. And I really liked what we ended up getting for her. So it is pretty tragic that, spoilers, we end up losing her this week because I think that she could have been, like, really good TV, really could have, gotten into fights with people, but I like what we were able to get with her. I think what we were able to get was still enough for me.
Yeah. Steph walks over to Moose and questions him and claims he's the person that's been saying her name. She's pissed off and she goes off on him. Kyle backs her up on it, and Moose tries to frame this as hearsay. He does admit that he told Kyle that he would consider putting her, but doesn't seem to see it as throwing her name out. She says she will stay this week and hates that people are talking about her behind her back. And he asks her to give a name, which she doesn't do. He also says he wouldn't have put her up and seems to smooth things over with her immediately.
Which, credit to Moose. The one thing that I think Moose is doing a really good job with, and I said this to you, is when Moose is under pressure and Moose is getting called out, he's really good at getting himself out of really difficult situations that. And I think that's something that Moose did a really good job with. But again, if I was Kyle in this situation, I would just let those two duke it out, keep myself out of it as much as I can, and just stick to my guns and put Steph up and use this as a reason to target Steph, not do what he ends up doing instead, which... Moose
is really good at just giving damage control.
Yeah, he really is. He really is. I think that's probably his biggest strength at this point. Moose is such a messy player, but I think when it comes to getting himself out of those situations, he's honestly really good at it, and I see it working for him for a while, actually. I don't see Moose being someone that... I think if people do want to target him, I can see Moose being someone that's able to get himself out of that person's crosshairs, especially with how well he handles things this week.
Yeah. Kyle realizes through this conversation he may need to target Moose based on how good of a liar he is, especially when Steph went from screaming at him to hugging.
I just don't know at this point. I don't even know what to say.
I have no idea what to say about that.
He went from wanting to target Steph to then in a conversation, just because Moose was able to cover himself, which he was doing for Kyle, mind you. He was doing that to protect Kyle. Kyle comes to the conclusion that, Moose needs to be my target now. My brain's hurting, Allie. My brain is hurting. I'm going to get an aneurysm just from talking about Kyle's HOH week. So let's just continue. Because Jesus Christ, I mean, I just don't know when it comes to when it comes to his HOH this week.
He talks to her and says that she nailed him, saying he's playing the middle, and she says she hopes to see what she said built as a little bit of trust that he didn't think was there. And she says there are much bigger threats than her.
Which is true. It's definitely true.
Oh, yeah.
And again, this was such a weird, conversation because, I think what Steph thought he was trying to do was, smooth things over with her, kind of tell her, you're not going to go on the block now. But it seemed like he was trying to, campaign to her, why Moose should go up, which, doesn't really matter much because Steph's going to go up anyway. Again, the way Kyle handles every single one-on-one with people this week is so atrociously bad. He does not do a good job of trying to gain their trust. If anything, he completely loses their trust because he keeps talking in circles. He keeps changing up plans. There's no consistency with him whatsoever. And I think this is just every conversation I feel with him is just such a disastrous one. And this is one of many.
Oh, for sure. Kyle has chosen to bring Kevin to Wendy's due to how good of a listener he is, and he wants to continue to build trust with him. Season 2 winner John Party sends Kyle a message congratulating him, and he tells Kevin about the retreat, which he takes note of for another time, which it's hard to trust. Honestly, whenever people tell Kevin anything, be careful because he's going to use it against you.
The thing is, though, it's working for him. That's the thing. And this is what I was talking about week 1 is that Kevin needed to not play up I'm the villain and I'm going to be, scheming and things like that. The way he's doing it now, I'm honestly really impressed by. He's a lot more low key about it, but he's making it seem genuine and he's kind of playing everyone in that way. It is working out for Kevin. I think he does have some really solid connections. Now, there are some people that I think he needs to worry about, but he is playing considerably better than I thought he was going to. I think kind of coming into this, a lot of people thought that he'd be out by now. And the fact that he's not, like, I'm generally impressed. I think Kevin's playing a really good game. And the fact that people are still telling him information at this point is a real testament to, I think, how well Kevin's playing. So honestly, like, I'm consistently impressed by him.
He's actually really impressing me, like him and Haleena. Like him and Haleena with their like rat game.
Yeah. And they're both doing it so differently too. Like Kevin's doing it in a way where like he gets close to people and they tell him information, and then Halena's a lot more like kind of subtle about it.
She's just making those social connections.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how they're both kind of playing similar games, but they're doing it like completely differently. And Kevin's playing like very differently from how I expected him to, and it's working out for him so far.
Oh yeah.
So speaking of Kevin, I will read the next set of notes, but Kyle then tells Hermon about the plan and how he's putting Steph up because of the 7, but it may become the 6 because Moose is really sketching him out because of how much he is playing the middle, and Hermon really doesn't like how much he's trying to dismantle the Savage 7, so he decides to talk to Josh, Summer, and Tynesha about the concerns he has with Moose, and he brings up to them that he threw up that he put up Hermon and Tynesha up on his HOH, and that they need to also put him up. And again, just really terrible the way that he ended up doing this, just assuming that they'd go along with the plan, not even trying to like suggest it to them. It's like, you're the HOH, you should be making the final decision, but like what he should have done is have separate one-on-ones with all of them, really try to see, get a consensus of what everyone really kind of like wants him to do, because it seemed like he was kind of like stumped this week and was just so paranoid about what he was trying to do. Again, just the way that he handles this was so bad. He also confesses to them his connection with Moose and Tynesha. Doesn't really feel like this matters at all, which honestly, like, if there's anything that shows a difference between this and BB and US BB, it's that US BB, if like this happens, like everyone would be freaking out. Oh my God, they know each other. But like BB Can, they're like, so what? Like, I honestly really love that. How little they cared about the fact that like Moose and Kyle like know each other in the way that they did. I thought that was honestly really funny. But Summer says she's not for this plan at all and is unsure what Kyle is going to do. So she may just skip the nomination ceremony altogether. Summer is killing it with the DRs. Like, honestly, she is like...
She's so adorable and funny.
She is the queen of DRs this season, I think. She's had so many iconic moments.
Yes, but also I think everyone is pretty great in DRs.
Oh, yeah, but some of hers were just really great to see, especially ones involving Kyle when she's like, I would rather, I think the quote was like, I would rather trust a damn tree than Kyle or something like that. It was great. And what I really like about this week in particular is that Summer really is getting a lot of credit for the things that she's doing, which is good. I feel like in other seasons, like it'd be someone else like kind of getting the credit for her move, but they really are giving Summer a lot of credit here. And that's good to see, because she's absolutely playing the best game right now, like hands down.
She's my favorite person.
Yeah,
I love her.
So Hermon is very annoyed with how much Kyle is exposing every alliance and is very overpowered, and he feels that the 7's going to be exposed and that they need to stick together but find a way to downplay the alliance as much as possible. I thought this was a really good move from Hermon. He kind of realized, like, because Hermon's in a very similar position to Kyle, where like he's kind of with everyone. He doesn't have like that one group, but you could tell that the Savage 7 was like the group that he wanted to like gravitate towards the most. And I like that he talked about how like, okay, we need to stick together, but we just can't like make it seem like we're still together. I think this was a good move for Hermon. He does a lot of really good work this week where he could have potentially gone up on the block, but I think because of the way Hermon handled things, in a very sort of quieter, subdued manner, I think it really did. I think he really did pull things off very well this week.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
So we get to what is probably the most random part of the episode, where we have this vote There's an audience vote, as we know. Canada was going to save someone this week. I thought for sure this was going to go to like Summer or Haleena or like,
Or Betty.
Betty, maybe even Tanisha. I could see it going to any of those people. Hell, I could have even seen it going to like Josh or Hermon or Moose. I would have never in any lifetime expected this to go to Marty of all people, but Marty ends up getting the safety here.
Okay, this was literally because of the Facebook moms.
Yeah, this very much reminded me of last season when like Kiefer and Tina randomly won like team captains, which like I don't think anybody was really expecting. Very much reminded me of that. I just very random. Marty didn't even really need this, to be honest with you. I don't understand why people gave this to him. Like, was it a bunch of like middle-aged people that came together because Marty's older and they didn't want him to get like targeted because of that? I don't know. This was just very strange overall. I don't know why he ended up getting this. But honestly, in a week that is such a train wreck, it's probably one of the lesser baffling things that went down this week. Because let's talk about this nomination ceremony, because Kyle immediately solidifies himself as one of the messiest HOHs by nominating Moose and Steph and giving some of the worst reasonings I've ever seen for someone being targeted. He's like, Steph, you're very messy and you're someone that everyone is targeting, and Moose, you're the reasoning behind Steph being targeted. Just I don't understand. Like, why are you putting both of them up? Like, it would be different if, let's say, Steph and Moose were both being accused of like the same thing. So he puts both of them up to like, really kind of like dispel any sort of like tension in the house. But he easily could have just put up Steph, and I think it would have been fine because at least at that point he had a set target. But it just seemed like the whole week he had no idea what he wanted to do. He would just rapidly switch targets in like such like a haphazard manner, just all around so bad on his part.
It's like the most random set of noms I've ever seen.
Yeah, and I mean, so that's everything that happened Monday. We get to Wednesday. Moose immediately feels this reasoning makes no fucking sense whatsoever, which it absolutely doesn't. And we see Jacey-Lynne is very annoyed that Kyle did this and doesn't really feel good with him anymore, which is the most we've seen out of her strategically, to be honest with you. Betty expected to be going on the block and is shocked that she had gone out this week unscathed so far, which again, Betty's just really kind of killing it. Like there are many moments where I'm like, Betty's probably going to go up, and she didn't. And I think it's just, again, a testament to how well she really is playing at this point.
Oh, yeah.
So Moose plans to blow up Kyle's game, especially with how much that he really does know. And Kyle then confirms to Steph that Moose is in fact the target, and he explains that everything he said about her came from Moose and that he's a tool to his game and he needs to take him out as soon as possible. Again, I just don't understand this rationale. Like, why does he need to get Moose out? I don't think he realizes that like Moose wanted to like ride things out with him. I didn't really understand this at all.
It was so random.
So Moose then talks to Betty, Tanisha, and Josh and explains that he should be kept around because he knows a lot about Kyle's game that he can expose. And he tells them that Kyle has another alliance. And at first he said he wasn't going to do it. And then he literally tells them like what he was going to say in typical Moose fashion. And he talks about how he deemed himself as a part of it. And he feels that he is now on both sides. And again, I just... all week long, I love Moose. I love the way Moose plays this week. I think he's so entertaining to watch.
Oh yeah, I've loved him ever since preseason.
Yeah, and this is the kind of messy that's like, okay. Like, it's like, yeah, he's causing a bunch of chaos, but again, he's able to get himself out of it. It's not completely dismantling his game. He's at least consistent with like who he wants to target. Whereas Kyle is just all over the place this entire week. And so yeah, he admits to how he, Hermon then goes to confront him, hearing that he wanted Kyle to put him and Tanisha on the block. And Moose isn't surprised that this came from Kyle, and he tells him that he didn't suggest it and wants them to stick together. In reality, though, he actually did suggest it to Kyle, and now he's regretting having said it. He feels like he destroyed one of the strongest relationships that he had in the game because he really was willing to stick it out with Kyle. He wanted to get to the end with him. He had such an easy connection, too, with them knowing each other from, like, college and such, and Kyle just completely discarded it, and it's just very strange that he did that. But I do want to talk again about Hermon and how well he really did handle this week, because he could have very easily like brought this up to Kyle and like really just like wail on him for it. And I'm glad that he didn't, because I think that if he had, there's a possibility that because Kyle was just so messy, he could have gone for Hermon or Tynesha. And I'm glad that he didn't, because I think that, it worked out overall. Yes, we do know who HOH is.
We know who it is.
Yeah, we do know. We'll talk about that next week. But yeah, Hermon, again, I think handled this week very well. I want to keep reiterating that. I think he did a really good job overall. So basically, he admits to Kyle that he trusted him and that he really wanted to go deep with him in the game. And Kyle brings up how he had significant pull over decisions he was making, and he wanted to make sure his decisions benefited him. And he brings up how good Moose really handled the situation with Steph, which Moose says he did that because he was trying to protect him. And Moose says that he had an easy connection with him, but this is going to come back to bite him, and that this was no way in his best interest, which is very much the case. This will come back to bite him, but we'll of course get into that. Just make sense of this, please, Allie. Like, what is with Kyle? Like, what is he even trying to do here?
He's literally trying to like get evicted.
Literally, it's like how do you stay safe for 1 week? Like, that's what this was.
Gino talks to Kyle and asks if they're using the veto, and Kyle says they will take Steph off and put Betty up. Steph comes in and says that she would pick Gino, Hermon, or Marty for a house guest choice.
Which again, just completely inconsistent with what he wanted to do with targeting Moose. Now all of a sudden he wants Betty out. I did not understand this at all.
Me neither. Ugh.
It's still you.
Yeah. Moose is unsure who he wants to choose for house guest choice, but is feeling best with Josh after the Savage 7 getting fractured. Moose talks to Josh about what Kyle did and asks if he'd use it on him. And he says he will, but in reality, Josh doesn't feel good with him right now.
Which I think was really good for Josh, that he kind of made Moose feel like he's on his side. I think we're starting to see a little bit more of Josh, which is good. Like I said, Josh has kind of been a little bit invisible, I think, in this game. And I think this week kind of lights a fire under him a bit. And it's good to see, because I think he's definitely playing more.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Josh is actually doing really well since he was nommed.
Yeah, he is. Spoilers.
He went from being kind of invisible to like doing really well.
Yeah, being a lot more vocal and such.
Yeah. If Steph played like that since the beginning, like she would have been also like one of our
favorites. Yeah, honestly.
Because like Steph is actually nice, like, and she's actually pretty logical.
Yeah, I think Steph really, to be honest, like in hindsight, I think Steph honestly really needed that HOH in week 2. Like, I think she'd be in a much better position if Marty had just like given it to her. And yeah, like sure, he's paranoid, but I don't think she would have put him up. I don't think she would have like gone back on that deal. Yeah, I think Steph would be.
I think she would have kept him at least that round.
Yeah, I think she just would have been in a much better position had she actually been able to like show her cards. But unfortunately, because she wasn't, she was just kind of expendable at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But I did love the fire that was under her in that Moose fight. That was really great.
So good. Oh my god. At the veto drawing, Gino, Josh, and Betty are chosen to play alongside Steph and Moose. Summer talks to Hermon and says Kyle is such a wild card and that he wants Gino to use it so to really mess with Kyle's game. They both agree he's playing way too emotional and they don't want to protect him anymore.
I love that they literally just want to use the veto to like fuck up Kyle's game. Like it's not even because they want someone out. They just want Kyle to not get his way.
So good.
It's so good.
Okay. At the veto competition, the house guests have to construct a puzzle and then retrieve 1 stringer and 5 pollen balls. And the first to land them in the correct spot will win. And in a very close race between him and Josh, Moose does win the veto here.
which is like the best outcome possible for this because it really makes things
Yes.
that much more chaotic as a result.
So good.
I'm really here for like the person that's like on the block always winning the veto. Like that doesn't happen very often. The fact that it's been happening every single week so far is just great. It's great to see, and I hope it continues because it definitely makes for, I think, the most exciting weeks possible. So, yeah. Oh, it's still you.
Kyle says his plan moving forward is to put Betty up and send a number from the other side.
Which, again, is like, that's
like,
what you expect him to do.
But he doesn't.
Yeah.
Moose
We'll
is,
talk about that.
yeah. Moose is very excited to have won. JL, Steph, and Haleena talk about how everyone who has been nominated and been the initial target have won veto.
Yeah.
Which is, we stand that because that's like makes the season even better.
Yeah.
Kyle says he wants to.
Oh, that was so good. That was so good when he did that.
Let's see. Yes, I love that.
That was a great moment.
I know, poor Betty.
Yeah, she really was like going hard in that.
Yeah. Kyle says he wants to replace Moose with Marty within 7. Kyle talks to Hermon about this, and Marty comes in as well as Gino and Kyle and brings up how with Moose out, it could give him safety. Marty isn't sure how to feel about this, but brings up Josh and how big of a threat he is. Hermon doesn't agree with this and wants to pick someone outside the group. Marty says he will stay loyal to the 3 of them.
This was giving me like Big Brother. This was giving me memories of like Big Brother 16 when Devin goes to people to be in the bomb squad without anyone else's approval. Like this was very similar to that. And you could see that Marty was like so shocked. He had no idea what was like really going on. And again, Kyle doesn't even really do a good job with this. Like he includes Marty as part of his alliance. And then, well, we'll talk about what happens a little later on. But this isn't even something that Kyle does a really good job with.
I know. Kyle wants to stick to the plan and put up Betty.
Which, like, okay, that's the most consistent Kyle has been all week.
Yup. Marty talks to Kevin and Kyle brings up how the plan is for Betty to go, but Marty assures he needs to make sure he has the numbers. And that Josh is the person that has the best chance of winning this game. Especially getting so close to winning both times, Kyle is feeling conflicted with what to do.
So I'm going to say this right now. Like, yes, Kyle is extremely messy, and Kyle's definitely, I think, the worst player of this season for sure. But Marty's not much better. Marty is really not much better at all. I think Marty has had some significant issues throughout this entire game. And I think this move alone really does solidify that because Marty does have good game awareness. Like he does for sure, but he doesn't know when to like wait things out. And the fact that he wanted to target Josh already when they didn't have the numbers and there really was no reasoning because Josh wasn't like coming for him or anything like that. It was just very it was just not a very well-formulated plan. I really just don't think Marty's playing very well at all.
No, he's just not good at all.
No, he's really not much better.
Kyle goes to Hermon and says putting a Betty would be a waste of an HOH, and the one person who would be a threat to them would be Josh, and he just needs him or Haleena's vote. Hermon doesn't understand why he wants to keep putting people up in his alliance.
You and me both, Hermon. I don't know what's going on.
Like, what, sir?
No, literally, like every conversation, he just got everyone so fired up. It was everyone so like I've never seen anything like this before.
He went from like this great position to being like, nope, I want you out now.
That's the thing. He was like well positioned and like this could have been such an easy week for him if he had just done like say Betty and Stephanie. Like it could have been such an easy week, and he decided to do something completely different. Like literally he could have just put a Betty and Jess, and he decided not to. Oh, Hermon had so many good rants this entire week. It was so good.
I love Hermon so much.
Oh yeah.
Hermon plans to backdoor him if he wins HOH next week. Kyle needs 5 votes to help him go along with the plan, and with the swing votes being Haleena and Jess. He talks to Haleena and says they have had a great game relationship and hopes he has her vote this week. And she asks who the top contenders are for him, and he brings up Betty or Josh. And she says once he locks it in to let her know, and she'll give him an answer.
This was such a bad conversation. Like, he hasn't even made a nomination yet. Like, why is he asking for her vote? And the way he did it, it was like, I better have your vote. You better give me your vote. It was like really just terrible all around. And also, like, I don't think Haleena sees him as like one of her top allies. And I think that he definitely should have been like more cognizant of that. So again, just a really bad one-on-one all around. I could go on for hours about just how terrible this entire week was for him.
Oh, for sure. At the veto ceremony, Moose obviously uses the veto on himself, and Kyle then draws a line in the sand and puts up Josh.
Which I can't even begin to tell you how terrible of a move this really is for him. Like, he was talking about the entire time how he literally wanted to put up Betty, and then Marty brings up like one thing about Josh, and suddenly he's like, we got to get Josh out. Like, how is he this like... How is he this like susceptible to like manipulation? I just don't understand it. I don't understand it. Like, how is it that one thing just completely changes his entire nom set? I don't get it when it comes to Kyle, because I don't think Josh was like gunning for him as hard as he thought he was. It was just really terrible all around.
And I agree. Adrian.
No, this. Like, that's the thing. Like,
he wants to guarantee someone's vote, but he won't say who the replacement nom is. Like, what?
I don't know why he didn't just tell her. Like, why? It's not like she's gonna like go tell Josh. Like, I don't really understand like what his reasoning was here. And even if she told Josh, like, he puts him up. Like, I don't really know how this changes anything. So, yeah, just terrible moves all around. Really terrible social game, and just no consistency when it came to anything he was going to do.
I know. Her face is so good.
Yeah, that was great.
Melina is adorable.
So, all right, we're going to get into Thursday now, which what an amazing episode this was. There were so many top tier moments, I think, in this episode. If you want to talk about just a really great and like shocking episode of BB Can, look no further than this one, because this was really good stuff. So Stephanie feels that she's golden now with Josh on the block, which she's not going to feel that way by the end of the week. That's all I'll say. Tanisha's very confused as to what's going on, but says that she's going to fight tooth and nail for Josh to stay. And Kyle is still feeling like this shot had to be taken, and like he has the numbers to take Josh out. Marty's very proud that he actually took the shot and feels that this week is going to go off without a hitch. And Stephanie then takes the time to talk to Jacey-Lynne and Jess, and they all feel that Josh is going home this week. Jess then walks out of the room and says that they all feel alone. And Steph talks to JL and says that she is staying no matter what. And we see that Jess is feeling kind of annoyed over what happened. And while they are stable, they need Josh to stay no matter what for their game. Which, I mean, in any other week, I would say Jess handled this really bad and like kind of increased the reason why Josh should go. But because of the fact that like it was so set in stone early on what was going to happen, I don't think this mattered that much. But again, I cannot reiterate, there are some really big flaws in Jess's game. I like Jess in terms of like how they're playing on some aspects, but I think that their two biggest issues is that they go way too hard to save people early on in the game. And whenever they are in like a position where like, you know, they're vulnerable, they're just completely unhinged and do not do a very good job with like trying to save themselves. And I think we kind of saw a bad moment from them here for sure.
Yeah, they really did. Like sometimes they have like good moments, and then a lot of time, the majority of the time, they're just not really good at strategy.
No. So Summer goes to Josh and wants to conduct a plan to make sure that Josh stays. And she thinks that her and Tanisha have him, and they actually plan to backdoor Kyle next week in the same way that he did it to them. Just Summer is so iconic. Like everything she's trying to do, it's working so well for her. The fact that she is coming up with these plans and is able to execute them so flawlessly. It's like, no one is on her level at this point, I think, in terms of the gameplay. I'm just so impressed by everything Summer's doing right now.
She's doing so well.
Yeah, so Kevin talks about how he and Jess are very much working undercover. Jess talks to him about how they want Josh to stay, and he is unsure if it's really best for his game. Betty then goes to him, and he feels that this is the week he needs to pick a side, and he brings up how much she loves Josh, and he needs her to keep lashing out at him and to make it seem like they hate each other, but she says she does, and that he looks incredibly shady if he doesn't keep Josh tonight. He says that he will be coming for her, and she feels he has now drawn the line in the sand. I feel like they both handled this conversation really badly, because like Betty was like, you must keep Josh. If you don't keep Josh, like I can't trust you after this. And then you got Kevin immediately like taking this, very personally, saying like he can't work with her in the game anymore. Just really bad for both of them. I'm glad they were able to like repair this, but they both handle this conversation really badly.
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. I'm looking forward to see. I feel like that's something like if Summer makes it to the end of this game, I feel like she is going to bring that up, and we're gonna if that actually is the case, like my God, she fooled all of us.
Yeah, that'd be so funny.
Yeah, because like my whole thing was like that whole reasoning was very specific that I don't think that would be a lie. But if it turns out to be, my God, just give this girl the money now. Like that's fucking genius that she was able to like lie to everyone like that. I would absolutely, if that turns out to be a lie, damn, that's crazy. But yeah, no, going back to Betty and Kevin, I think they both handled this conversation really badly. And like I said, I'm glad they were able to make amends, but this was not good. So Summer starts a heavy campaign to keep Josh and flip the vote. She starts by talking to Haleena, and she asks how much she trusts her and what she can do to strengthen her relationship with her. And Haleena basically says that she trusts her and Tynesha, but there has to be some form of trust. And Tynesha tells Haleena that her and Summer were in a 7-person alliance with Kyle, but he blew it up and it's dead now. She tells him that he thinks he has her vote, and they all hope to win HOH very soon. Yeah. Still hasn't happened, unfortunately. It's very sad. I want to see one of them win HOH. I will say I don't think that Summer or Haleena should want to win HOH right now.
I don't think they need it until a little bit into jury.
But on the flip side, I think Tynesha actually really needs it right now because she's kind of someone that I think people view as a bit expendable. And I think if she were to win HOH, I think she would be able to show her cards a bit more. But I think Summer and Haleena, they don't really need it right now. Like they can kind of, they can just kind of like, keep doing what they're doing and go for the HOH when they need to.
Yeah, they don't need it yet.
No, especially Summer. Like she definitely does not need it right now.
Oh yeah.
So Haleena says in her confessional that Kyle has been so messy and she's trying to play the middle and be invisible and like kind of a ghost in this game. And he's making it very hard for her to do so. I like that we got to see more of like what Halena's been doing. We haven't really seen a lot of that in the edit yet. So I'm glad that they were able to show that a little bit more here in the way that Haleena is playing the game. We then get some really stupid moment with like a bunch of people walking in on JL and Gino. You guys know how I feel about this at this point. This is a non-storyline. I don't know why we keep harping on this. At this point, I feel like Gino likes both her and Summer, but they keep focusing on the more boring one, and I don't know why.
I don't know who he likes. Maybe he likes them both. Maybe he doesn't like either of them. I don't know.
I have no idea. But do I care? Not really. Like, generally, I do not give a shit.
Like, if people date outside the house, good for them.
Yeah.
In the house, it doesn't really matter.
I just don't know why we keep focusing on this. Like, this is so boring. Exactly. Like, they're both, and that's the thing. They're both so boring already that, like, pairing them together, it's like, I don't know who finds this interesting. Like, why are we harping so much on this?
Gino is like one of the most bland people ever.
He's so monotone, and we'll especially talk about that next week because, he wins HOH. But,
He's like,
Jess goes over to Josh and says that they're never voting him out ever. And they ask him how he is with Kevin. And he says that he's like 50-50 with him. They discuss votes and they're trying not to be too overconfident, especially with them thinking that they are switching. And Josh says that Steph feels super confident and Jess says they need to keep it up and then draw a line in the sand when they have to. And then Steph feels that her best pitch is to bring up how much of a physical threat that Josh is, and that if they don't go for him, they never will. And this was a good pitch, honestly. Like, I think this could have probably worked for Steph. I think, like, let's say,
honestly, it would have been nice if he switched Steph with JL.
Yeah. Well, let's say like this is a normal week. They're not just trying to like fuck Kyle over. I do think this pitch could have worked because like realistically, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Josh has come very close in a lot of comps. He almost won the HOH. He almost won the veto. Like, I think that is a pretty sound pitch. It really just came down to the fact that Steph was collateral damage and they had to do what they had to do. But I did love the moment here where she talks about how she feels that she has JL, Gino, Marty, Hermon, Kevin, Jess, Betty, and Halena's votes, where it's like that could not be.
She has 2 of them.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought that was a really funny moment.
All right.
You can talk about what's going on. I'm going to get some water.
Oh, okay. Kevin has noticed that Marty feels excluded from the alliance with Kyle and Gino. However, he wants them to be his ride or dies, despite losing trust. Kevin brings up Canada loves him, and he needs to think why Canada would save him, and that if they think people are out to get her. And they love her, and Marty says Kevin has made him second guess what he's thinking. He decides to talk to Josh and lets him know he suggested for him to win HOH. And Josh says if there's anyone he wants to prove, he has a reason to stay. It's him. He wants to write it out with him. Josh tells him if people are being honest with him, he has enough, and Marty feels he would be a swing vote. And Josh says Kyle has such a big target on himself. People want to turn the tide against him.
This was so weird. Like, Marty is like 1 second targeting Josh, and then all of a sudden he has this conversation with Josh and he's like completely won over by him. And this is why I say I think Marty is not much better than this is why I say that like Marty I don't think is much better than Kyle, because I think he's just way too like emotional of a player. Like, he's too won over by people and like keeps like making all these like crazy like 180s, and I think this was a perfect example of it, because truthfully, like, yeah, Josh does want to write it out with him, but do I think this is good for Marty? Not really. Like, Marty was straight up targeting him. Josh can absolutely use this against him if he needs to. I just don't think this was good.
Oh, no, not at all. Ugh, it's terrible.
So, yeah, again, Marty just not good. Not good at all.
No, not at all. Kyle talks to Marty and says he wants their alliance to be called the Village Voice because the house is a village and they are the voice.
That is the most pretentious thing I've ever heard, but...
Like, okay. Stay hydrated, kids.
Yes. Stay hydrated. It'll keep you from becoming paranoid like Kyle.
He feels they are good after this week, especially having the numbers to send Josh home. Haleena is feeling incredibly indecisive about what to do this week. I will say, like, people were giving her a hard time on Twitter because, like, she's literally just playing the middle.
Yeah, literally, that's all she's doing.
That's literally all she's doing, and she's doing, like, very low key. Like, no one's caught on.
Yeah.
And, like, people will praise Kevin, but won't praise her.
Yeah, it's very strange.
It's just kind of gross.
Yeah.
Kevin tells Marty he is feeling very paranoid. And Marty says while he was scared of Josh, he feels that he is sincere with what he's saying. And Kevin says he feels Kyle and Gino may just see him as a stupid old man, and him as a nerdy guy they can manipulate into doing their bidding. He tells him if he's asked if he flipped to evict Josh, Kevin will raise his hand and say he flipped.
I will say, like, what Kevin is doing with Marty right now is fucking phenomenal. Like, all around.
So good.
If he continues to really like capitalize on this relationship in particular, I think Kevin's going to get really far in this game because of it. Because I don't think Marty realizes just how much Kevin is manipulating him right now. And I think it's really going to work out for Kevin in the end. So for that reason, like, Marty does need to stay. I just don't see him staying for that much longer just because of the way that he's playing.
I feel like if Marty gets to jury, he's probably going to be like one of the first 2 boots.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't think there's a lot of people that like really have him like very high on like their list of people they want to work with. I think Kevin, though, like, is probably the person that benefits the best from keeping Marty around. And I also think it's where Kevin shines the most. Like, if Kevin's able to do this with other people, then like I think he's going to get really far in this game. But right now it seems like it's really only working out for him when he does it with like Marty, or if people like spill his game to him, like their game to him. But I think what he's doing with Marty is probably the best I've seen from Kevin so far. Just the way he has Marty so convinced that he's on his side, but we can tell he's very clearly not. I think is and kind of like getting him to like target other people, just all around brilliant. I think he's doing a really good job with that.
Oh, for sure. I agree. Because he's actually doing great. Like, he's really going on me.
All right, so let's get into the vote here. My God, this was insane. We get after a very volatile and tumultuous week, it's finally time for the next eviction vote. Steph gives a plea, says how amazing this experience is and how they're such strong players and how she is one of them. Josh talks about how unbelievable of a week this has been and that it's time to find a new power in there. And we get what I think is easily one of the most stunning evictions in BBCAN history, where Steph is blindsided here by a vote of 9-2. The only votes being to keep her are Jacey-Lynne and Gino. And my God, just the look on hers and Jacey-Lynne's and Kyle's faces are fucking priceless.
And then obviously Gino after.
Yeah, this was a moment that I think is going to go down in BBCAN history. I think we always hope there's going to be like that blindside that ends up happening and it's like really shocking, and it never happens because someone always like spills the beans and it never turns out in the way that we wanted to. And the fact that we were able to get just like a really good blindside was just so fulfilling to watch, not just because Kyle didn't get his way, but just the fact that we had a blindside and that it worked out in the way that it was supposed to. It was so good. This was such an amazing moment all around. And I think this is going to be definitely a moment that like people are going to remember for a long time.
I love Summer and the DR so much.
Oh yeah. Every time she votes, like, she's like so excited.
Yes.
So yeah, this was so great to see. I do want to talk about what she said before she left. She says that like there's something big happening. It's right underneath their noses. I heard a lot of people on Twitter saying that like she was alluding to like a second cookout or something like that. I don't think that's what she was alluding to at all. I think she was talking more about like a potential like guys alliance that was going on.
Yeah, I kind of think that's what she was talking about.
Yeah, I don't think it had anything to do with like a second cookout or something like that, because she basically said like in her interview that the reason she would target Summer is because she knew Summer was like playing the best game. Which is like, if Steph is the only person I think so far to like catch on to Summer's game. Which is like
technically all of the evictees have like or would have put her up.
Yeah, which I think is interesting. I think Kyle's the first one who wouldn't put her up.
He would put her up eventually, but not right away.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Steph's interview here, again, very short. I feel like this is going to be like normal for this season. Because she talks about how she had the numbers, but she knows that something bigger is going on, most likely involving Summer, and there's some big liars in the game. She says that she doesn't know how Gino and JL are going to recover from this, which they won't. She feels that Josh was a strong player and talked his way into staying, and that she may have been a bit too confident this week. I do think that hurt her. I do think her being confident is definitely something that probably hurt her this week, but I also don't think she should blame herself too much for it, because it really was just her going because of being collateral damage to Kyle. It really had nothing to do with like anything she specifically did. And I think it's important to note that I don't think Steph left because of anything she did. It's more just like her being like an accessory to Kyle and whatnot.
Oh, for sure.
So yeah, I mean, honestly, I am sad to see Steph go. I think she had a lot more left to give in the game. And I think the fact that I've been won over by her is saying a lot, because you guys know I was not a fan of her at all preseason, but I actually like what we ended up getting from her overall. So it is time for the next HOH of the season. It's a higher or lower comp. And at this point, I was just like, get someone from the other side to win. Unfortunately, we get probably the most boring outcome possible with Gino winning HOH here. It was between him, Marty, Moose, and Betty. I would have loved for a Moose HOH. I think that would have been the most interesting, especially with how the last week played out. But Gino winning HOH, not the most exciting, but thankfully we do get a little bit more of an exciting week than I think we maybe anticipated, and that's good. But yeah, that's that week. We're gonna get into this week now and get fully caught up to what is going on here. So basically, starting off with Monday, lots to talk about. Once again, lots to talk about. Obviously, a lot reeling from the previous episode.
I know. She was doing so good.
Yeah, we were. I really thought she was gonna get it.
A Betty HOH would have been so good.
It would have been. I think a Betty HOH. Well, the thing with a Betty HOH is I think Kyle definitely would have gone up, and I think Kevin also probably would have gone up, which would have been interesting. Like I don't know
if she's like really working with him. I think they just have like a friendship.
I think she is now. Maybe she is.
They just never really like submitted it or like maybe like committed anything.
No, I think she is now. I think at that point though, like she was kind of like not really a fan of him. So we get to Monday, and Josh is very excited to have survived, but he feels like Kyle's HOH is one of the worst reigns of all time, which he definitely did not lie. Kevin is very happy to see everyone scrambling. Gino's feeling very betrayed and doesn't know who to trust now. And Kyle is feeling absolutely played. He says that there was some serious work done behind his back, and now he feels like he's on an island of his own. And he has no idea who could have even flipped on him and who was actually truthful. And Hermon feels the people just got sick and tired that Kyle was running the house, and his confidence is what really hurt his game, which I said this going into his HOH. So like Kyle is so overly confident, and that's really going to bite him in the ass. And I think that's exactly what happened. He got so cocky and confident, and it got to his head, and that's why he is where he is now. So Marty doesn't really regret his decision at all. And we see Jacey-Lynne, and my God, I mean, Jacey-Lynne already playing a really bad game. I think this moment alone solidifies her as easily one of the worst people to play this game right now. She is in such a terrible position, has some of the worst game awareness I've seen in quite a bit, because she's so confused as to what's going on, feeling incredibly betrayed, feels she has almost no one on her side, and she goes to Kyle under the assumption that he knew about this plan, that this was all his idea, even though that makes no fucking sense whatsoever with what he ended up saying, and was asked why he told her something different. He reiterates that he has no idea what's going on which she doesn't really buy into. And I think this alone, I will say two things. One, Kyle was at this point so untrustworthy to everyone that basically anything he said, even if it was honesty, people didn't believe. But the fact that, wait, let me see. Oh, that was so good.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that was a great moment. No, but I think the fact that she generally believed by the end of the conversation that Gino is behind this and that she can't trust him, like, I don't know what else I can say to prove that, like, she's such a terrible player in this game. And that's the best way to sum it up. It is so...
JL and Gino literally think that each other flipped.
It is so embarrassing to watch. And the thing with Jacey-Lynne that really frustrates me is that she could easily get herself out of this position. If she would talk to more people, if she would solidify more bonds, she'd be in a much better spot. But because of the fact that she doesn't talk game with people, she never has any idea what the hell is going on. And this is a perfect example of that. Just really embarrassing to watch overall, the way this played out. It kind of reminded me, and these people were more likable. It reminded me of, remember Big Brother 20? How every single week Faute, nobody would vote the way that they did, and they were always thinking the other flipped. They never thought it was like the other side. They always just accused each other. Wow. Very much reminded me of that, but maybe even worse. So she goes to basically Hermon then explains to Gino why the vote went the way it did. And I think it was good that he pulled Gino aside and let him know, and that Kyle like totally fucked his game up. And he felt that he needed to stand up and let him know that they can still work together. And the things that he did are entirely his doing. And Jacey-Lynne then talks to Summer and says that she doesn't feel she can trust anyone. And Summer says at the end of the day, they have to pick a side. And she brings up how she feels that Gino is behind this and she hates being made to look stupid by a man, but wants to try to do something about it. So do something about it. Like, that's the thing. She keeps saying, oh, I want to do something, but she doesn't do anything. And that's what is so frustrating to me. It's like, she has the tools to do something and she doesn't do anything. I don't know, Allie. Like, I don't know what she's doing in this game. She keeps saying she wants to do something and then doesn't do anything. I don't like Jacey-Lynne. I don't like Jacey-Lynne at all. I don't like the way she's playing.
She grew on me for a little bit until those tweets came out, and now I'm just like, nope.
And it doesn't help that she's playing absolutely terribly.
She's playing so badly.
Yeah,
her and Gino are both playing terribly.
Her gameplay is just abysmal all around. But Hermon explains to Kyle that he didn't feel he could work with him anymore because of how many irrational decisions that he made and how much he overthought everything. And that last week should have been a lot easier for him, which is true. Again, it could have been a very easy sort of HOH. So we then flash forward to Gino's HOH win, and he talks about how he still felt so confused and he doesn't really know where he stands with Jacey-Lynne, and that literally anyone could be his target this week, which again really just shows how bad Gino is at this game. The fact that he doesn't trust Jacey-Lynne right now, it's just bad. It's just really bad. And Marty feels that this was the worst case scenario for him, considering he just flipped on Gino and he's absolutely going to go on the block this week. Marty handles this week, I think, really bad, honestly. This was probably his worst week yet because Marty is so convinced he's going to go on the block. He almost makes it a foregone conclusion. Like, I think there was a scenario in which Marty doesn't go on the block, but because he was like so adamant that like he was going to be targeted, I feel like he kind of did it to himself.
Oh, he did. Like, he's just,
Yeah, not playing well at all. Just, again, Marty, not a very good player. So Jess says them or Josh didn't win, and Josh feels that this will make an even messier week, and Jess feels that Gino doesn't like them, and that Josh is worried because of their closeness with Josh, that they could easily go up. And Hermon congratulates Gino, and he informs Gino that Marty most likely kept Josh, and that only he and JL ended up voting for Josh. And I thought it was good how he planted this.
Agreed, Adrian.
Yeah, that's easily like my biggest issue with him is like he was literally playing like he was getting evicted. Like he was so convinced he was getting evicted this week when like truthfully nothing is set in stone until the veto. Like that's the thing. Like nothing is set in stone until then, and Marty should have known that.
Oh, for sure.
So yeah, I like what Hermon did here, that he like planted that seed to Gino. Really kind of threw that in there, and I think he did a good job with that. Yeah, that too. That's the other thing. It's like he's so like overly emotional as a player, and I think that's what also
in
really
the worst ways too.
Yeah, I think that's also what's going to bite him in the ass.
Yep, for
sure. I've been talking for a while, so I'll let you read the next line.
Oh, what was the next part?
I'm sending it. All right, there you go.
Oh, okay. You drink some water, baby.
Yeah, a little bit.
Gino is delighted that JL is still on his side, especially because of how much he put into her. He, Kyle, and JL solidify a final 3 of Swords.
It's like they kind of need to do at this point, but it's also like pointless.
They need to, but it's pointless, and they're terrible players.
Yeah, generally, all 3 of them are just absolute trash.
Well, and then this part is just like a fun part. Everyone's given a celebration of pizza and alcohol. I'm just gonna say the part with like Haleena and Tynesha, I love that.
That was so good. Where she's like, I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna feel happy tomorrow morning. Like that was great.
Yeah, Haleena and Tynesha are like so drunk. They're like, I'm gonna work out tomorrow. I'm gonna wake up early.
Yeah, that was great. That was a great moment. Little stuff like that. You guys know I don't like the tasks and shit, which unfortunately does come back this week. But this is like the stuff I like. Like stuff like this is fun.
Yeah, that was a great one.
Yeah.
Gino talks to a bunch of house guests to pick their brain a bit. He starts
Which
off
I
with
think was smart. I think it was smart for him to do this because he's kind of like alone, but it's also Gino, so it's not particularly interesting to watch.
True. He starts off with Summer and tells her how little trust he has with everyone. Summer brings up how if he really wants to save his game, he needs to put Kyle up to disassociate with him, and until he does, she can't really help him this week.
I cannot stress enough how impressed I was by Summer this week. Like she
So
the
good.
thing with Summer is like she knows she's good with Gino, and she's gonna try to use that as much as she can to like really kind of like, you know, really throw that out there that like he should be putting up Kyle. Kyle's someone that's not good for his game. And the work that she pulls off this week, like this was Summer's HOH. Like this was not really Gino's HOH. I would go as far as to say Summer did basically all the work for Gino this week. And I think we should definitely credit her for that. Like I think to me, this is the beginning of Summer really just kind of dominating this entire game. I think this is really kind of the start of that.
Yeah. Kevin is next, and he brings up how he can only trust JL and Kyle, and everyone else is a pathological liar. He feels he has been able to win him over.
I love that he was like the other like personality, like and he really was like committing to that, or like he had like a wife and things like that.
He was literally just telling him what he wants to hear.
Yeah, it was great.
Yep.
No, yeah, literally, this was Summer's HOH.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with Summers, but also with a little bit of Kevin, Betty, and Haleena.
Yeah, but mostly Summers.
Mostly Summer, but yes.
Yeah.
Jess talks to him and once again uses the same pitch they've been using every week.
I'm so sick of it. I'm so sick of the pitch where it's like, I'm not coming for you. I'm good for your game. I'm on an island right now. Like, change it up. Literally just change it up. Literally. I can't stress that enough.
Do they have any other pitch?
It's so bad. Like, after a while, it's like... You can't keep saying you're on an island if you're pitching the same thing to everyone and people are falling for it. Like it's just not going to work after a while.
Yep. Tynesha talks to him and she doesn't really know where she lies with him because she has brought his name up before. She talks to him about how she doesn't see herself as a huge threat and there are much bigger fish to fry. He asks why she deserves to be here. And she says she's been through a lot in her life, family-wise, and this hasn't been an easy road for her. She just wants to give her daughter a life she deserves.
Which this was a good moment. I don't think Tanisha's playing very well. I will say that right now.
Yeah, sadly.
I think that Tanisha is very much being shielded by Summer right now. I think Summer is very much the reason why Tanisha is still here, because I think if Summer was not riding it out for Tanisha as hard as she was, I do think there's a scenario where Tanisha goes on the block this week, but because Summer really just kind of like, you know, was in the driver's seat this entire week, I think that's why Tanisha ended up avoiding the block, but really not doing that well, I think, in terms of she needs to talk to more people. She needs to get in with more people. I just don't think her connections are all that solid. And it's unfortunate because I really like Tanisha a lot, but
I want Tanisha to do really well, but I just sadly see her being like one of the early jurors.
Yeah, I just see her being expendable. Like you know what I can see? I can see a scenario where like people really like eventually really do want to target Summer and they get Tanisha out because of it. Like they put Tanisha and Summer on the block and Tanisha ends up going as a result. Like that's what I see happening when it comes to Tanisha. Like because that happens a lot with duos where it's like, you know, you have that half of the duo that's like strong, you have the half of the duo that's not, and I feel like that's very much Summer and Tanisha, and unfortunately I just don't see Tanisha going super far. I hope she proves me wrong, but that's that's the problem, is that she really doesn't do a good job with that. Like all of her connections are just personal, like there's not a lot of game related
she's
stuff.
Just trying to her game is she's just trying to play for her daughter.
Yeah, which is good, but like you have to do something to get there, and she's not really doing that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would agree with that being the problem.
Yeah. Gino has decided to bring Josh to Wendy's. He gets a message from my girl Sarah Handlin. I love her so much. And congratulating him on his win, and is completely oblivious to who she is. And he hasn't watched her season.
This
Okay.
was such a funny moment.
I know, that was so funny, but like, oh my god, how can you not watch BB Can 3? It's so good.
I feel like even people who don't watch BB Can 3, like they've heard the name Sarah Hanlon. Like I don't understand how he didn't recognize her.
Yeah, Sarah.
I haven't seen BB Can 3, and I know who Sarah Hanlon is. Like I just didn't understand.
She is amazing. Her and Brittany, oh, so good.
Yeah.
But I mean, the whole cast is great.
Yeah, I need to watch that season.
Yes. Josh lets him know he has no hard feelings about him and JL voting the way they did because it was Kyle's HOH. Gino lets him know he isn't anywhere on his radar.
Which I think was good. I think it was good that he brought Josh there because Josh was just on the block. He kind of needed that extra boost to like really make sure that he's in a good spot.
This is really the only kind of game Gino's done because he's so boring.
Yeah, honestly, like that's the thing. Like he really doesn't do a lot of game talk this week. It's very much like he kind of lets other people do it for him.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right. Kevin talks to Betty and he brings up how much he's learning about others. Betty admits he is growing on her, especially with how big of a heart he has. They bond about Marty saying he will be a great father and missing home. I actually really enjoy their friendship.
I do too. And I like when they like speak French to each other and things like that. Like it's just like really, it just feels really personal, you know?
Yeah. It's like very wholesome, but like I don't see them as a couple. Like I see them as like a sister-brother relationship.
Oh, I thought we were talking about Marty and Gino. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was talking about the Kevin and Betty one.
But yeah, I like Kevin and Betty a lot. I like that they were able to like repair things this week, and I think if they're able to stay on good terms, I think they could be one of the stronger duos in the house because people aren't going to suspect it.
Oh, for sure.
Kevin just needs to stop getting into fake fights with her. Especially when it's not like reciprocated.
I mean, I don't know. Like maybe she's actually working with him now, but who knows?
I think she is. I think she just needs to like
get
his trust, like get his trust.
Yeah.
And like know that trust is like,
Yeah, exactly.
mutual.
Marty says he doesn't regret his decision at all, and he lets Kevin know he will not be turning on him or Jess. He is not going to cater to Gino's HOH and wants to continue doing what is best for his game.
Yeah.
And next is yours.
Oh, yeah. Again, the way Marty just handled this was not very good. We see Kevin can sense how paranoid Marty is becoming and that his heart is way too big for this game, and he seems to be far too apologetic and incapable of lying. And yeah, I think that's absolutely the problem, is that Marty is just way too like emotional and he takes everything personally. He talks to Gino and he admits that he was hurt by how Marty voted and is worried that he's going to do it again. And Summer brings up to Hermon how she knows that Marty is probably going up and that they all wonder who he's going up against. I love that they were like asking Summer because they knew like how good she was with Gino. And Tanisha's feeling like it's going to be her. And Summer lets her know that she has her vote to stay if that would happen no matter what. And Gino then talks to Kyle about how this whole thing backfired and that he had a good chat with Hermon. And he still has his trust and that he doesn't feel that he would go up if he won HOH next week. And Gino tells him and JL that he has 3 people in mind, which are Marty, Tanisha, and Jess. And he doesn't have any specific target as long as one of them go home. And Jacey-Lynne feels that he should go for Marty because of how messy that he really could become. And so we get to the nomination ceremony, and he does decide to nominate Marty and Jess here. I think this was good for Gino. These are probably pretty solid nominations.
This was like kind of a boring round though, just this part. Like it gets more into the crazy stuff later.
Yeah, it definitely gets more interesting. But at the moment, it's just kind of like, all right, Marty's gonna go, fine. Like I don't really care. So we get to Wednesday, and Jess is not surprised that they are up, and Gino's probably upset that they didn't vote with him. And Marty tells Kevin that he's fired up and he's ready to bring it this week. He's pissed at how Kyle ran his HOH and feels like if he handled things differently, that they wouldn't be in this mess right now. And again, it's like the way that Marty is handling things, it's almost like the veto has already happened and he's out the door. And it's just really not good in terms of how he handles this. Betty feels that Gino is trying to disassociate from his previous alliance, but she feels that he should have just should have put up Kyle to begin with. And Gino then tells Marty that while he came up harsh, he needed to show him that they weren't as close and he wanted to keep people on their toes. And Marty brings up that Kyle and Gino were his ride or dies week 1 or 2, and he doesn't appreciate how much he lied and backstabbed and that he should have let him know in advance he was going to do that. And he says after this, he's coming after him, Kyle and JL. I thought he went way too far when it came to this, just talking about how like, oh, I have a vendetta against the 3 of you now. It's like he talks about he doesn't even want to be in the game anymore after this. And Gino says that he can't take this personally and he wants to bring him back up as much as he can. He says this is really not sitting well with him at all. Again, I just don't think Marty played this round very well at all. I think the way that he took things so personally to the point where he wanted to disassociate from Gino, which to be honest, I think Gino's probably the person that's like the most loyal to him, especially because they have that connection with like, you know, speaking French and whatnot. It's like they really like bond with that. I just feel like Marty just did not take into account like why else Gino could have done this. Like it just was a really bad game awareness all around. And at the veto drawing, Summer, Tynesha, and Haleena are chosen to play alongside Jess and Marty. Very good veto drawing here. Marty,
yes, I loved it.
Yeah, Marty especially feels that Summer or Haleena could take him down if they were to win.
Like those are my girls, and obviously Betty, but she's not in that one.
So Jess tells Marty that they feel that they are the target anyway, and he says that he wants to really just focus on the veto right now, which is good. It's a good way to look at it. Definitely better than how he's handled the rest of the week overall.
Yeah. Tynesha is very excited to be playing in the veto, and she knows that Gino had considered her for the block, so it's that much more important for her to do well in this comp.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Tynesha kind of needed this veto.
Yeah, I kind of like was here for her winning this one.
Yeah, I was excited if she were to win because I think really would have like shown her cards and show that she is like kind of here to play the game because that's the thing is like she talks a lot of like personal stuff to people. We haven't really seen her talk a lot of game, and I would have liked to see more of that.
Oh, same. Summer says she wants to keep Marty, but she wants to know who his backdoor would be. And Moose and Tynesha feel he could just backdoor Kyle, and the votes would absolutely be there.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, yes. So Gino says if either of them went down, he has a plan and he thinks Betty or Tynesha would go up. Ugh.
Which, like, again, targeting Betty. Everyone wants to target Betty, and she finds a way to not.
I mean, targeting Betty and Tynesha, that's a little problem.
Yeah, I just don't get it. I don't get it.
The veto comp happens, and they have to pick presents off a conveyor belt and stack them horizontally without touching the ground. I actually really like this comp because, like, I love Christmas time.
This is fucking hard. Like, this is one of the hardest comps I think I've ever seen.
It looked really hard, but it looked really cute and fun.
Like, you have to like keep these presents like as close to you as possible, and like if one of them fall, like you're out. Like it's just, I would not do well at this at all.
Yeah. I don't know how well I would do. Like, I'd either be really good or really bad.
Yeah.
And also, like, I'm just gonna talk about it was like seeing Tynesha all emotional made my heart like break because like I wanted that letter from her daughter.
Yeah, she really did.
And then it comes down to Marty and Jess. So the two noms, and Marty ends up winning ultimately.
Again, another nominee ends up winning, which it was so cool. It came down to both of them.
Same. I mean, I will say he probably did need this vote. He probably didn't need this veto.
No, yeah, he definitely did.
That's why. So it's a good thing he won.
Yeah, he definitely did. I think
this comp was played back in 7.
I think he probably would have gone if he.
I remember that now. I think
if he didn't win.
Gino is feeling relieved that Marty won veto, but is struggling with a renom. Kevin congratulates Marty, as does Kyle. Marty feels Kyle getting backdoored is basically a done deal after this.
Yeah, which I mean, I'm not complaining.
So good.
Yeah.
It's so dumb for Gino's game, but
that is the thing I do want to say is that I've seen a lot of people say, oh, well, this is good for Gino's game because he could be targeted with Kyle and this is, preventing him from potentially, being collateral damage. But it's like, I feel like Kyle is the one person that actually benefits Gino because Kyle's someone that's always going to take the heat for any decisions that Gino makes. So from his perspective, like targeting Kyle is not the right move, but I want to see it happen because I want to see Kyle go because of how badly he handled last week. Also, because I think it's funny that both Kyle Moores would go out in the exact same placement.
I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, but I do want to again reiterate, not good for Gino's game, like at all. Like he has no one after this. He has absolutely no one. He has like Marty and Jacey-Lynne. That's it.
Yep, that's it. Marty goes to talk to Gino to hopefully repair things with him. He says he respects him as a person and he won't backstab him a second time and wants to build a bridge between them. Marty feels they need to not be as obvious, and Gino brings up how Betty will be the renom and likely the target.
Which again, I feel like Betty at this point is like a decoy name. Like everyone says, "Oh, I'm putting Betty up," but they always mean someone else, which I think is really funny.
Yeah, she's definitely the decoy.
Yeah, it very much seems that way.
She's got this underdog story.
She really does. Like, and I think that could be really strong for her at the end.
Yep.
So Summer goes to Gino and plants the seed in his head to put up Kyle. And she says that Kyle has rubbed people the wrong way and he's very much a liability to him and everyone wants him as a target. And Gino would be up next to him. She feels that this would be the optimal move for his game, but if he wants to play it safe, Betty may just be his best move. Again, just flawless gameplay from Summer here. The way she got into his head and completely just like changed the course of what he was going to do. Phenomenal. I just can't praise her enough for this. And I really do think that after this, like this is Summer's HOH. It's not Gino's HOH.
It is Summer's.
Yeah. So Kyle talks to Gino and asks him where his head is at. And if Kyle wasn't already in like a bad spot, he messed things up even more so when it came to this conversation, because Gino says he's thinking of the same plan. Gino once again and Kyle once again floats the idea of putting up Moose, which Gino is very annoyed with because he doesn't want to create any more blood on his hands, and Kyle feels he should pull this off as a resume move. I don't know what Kyle was thinking here. Like legitimately, I don't know why he brought this up to Gino, because it doesn't make sense for Gino to put up Moose. Moose is going to see it coming this time around. It doesn't make sense. You know, Gino said he wanted a very like easy, straightforward week, didn't want to create all this paranoia. Kyle should have known that like he's probably not in the greatest spot. Like what was Kyle thinking here? Like this was such a bad move. Maybe the worst move he could have made.
For sure.
So, yeah, just once again, no idea what Kyle's doing. Gino talks to Marty, says he has a target in his head and that everyone is going after Kyle and he's trying to disassociate himself from him as much as he can. So it may just be the best move to put him up, especially having the numbers. And Gino decides... What?
He's actually going through with it.
Yeah, so what we thought was going to be like this crazy backdoor, unfortunately, it doesn't quite turn out that way because Gino actually does tell Kyle the truth that everyone wants him out, and he really has no choice but to put him up, and it really hurts him because they have something really strong. Kyle knows he's going home if he goes up, but Gino says with the whole house against him, he doesn't really have a choice, and Kyle just kind of lays down and dies here. Like, that's kind of what he does. And at the veto ceremony, Marty does in fact use the veto on himself, and Gino then nominates Kyle in his spot. And seeing the look on everyone's face when he did this, just how relieved they were, Betty holding back laughter, it's just great. It's a great moment all around. And the fact that Kyle is actually going on Gino's HOH is so funny to me. And the fact that he, you know, actually could potentially get the same placement as like, you know, could potentially get the same placement as Kyle Moore from last season. It's also funny to me, and I love the fact that this was able to be pulled off. But again, I cannot stress, not very good for Gino's game. Oh, that was great. I love that so much. That was so good. I also like the way Marty was like really kind of like laying it on thick when it came to his dislike for Gino, but I don't think it's going to work out for them. Like, I feel like it's kind of obvious, like they don't actually hate each other, but we'll see.
Oh, for sure. Right.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that. Oh.
So yeah, that's everything that went down on Wednesday. We're now going to go ahead and talk about tonight's episode, which I'm not going to lie, tonight's episode was kind of dry. This
episode was really weak compared to the others.
Yeah, there was stuff that went on, but there was like a lot of filler in this episode, and there was a lot of stuff that
I won't say I hated it. It was just
No.
one of the weaker episodes.
No, yeah, definitely one of the weaker episodes compared to what we've been getting. But there's still some stuff to talk about, so Allie's gonna go ahead and get into it.
All right. We're told something will be happening with the phone tonight involving BB Can Legends.
Which I got confused about this. I won't lie. I thought that the BB Can Legends were going to appear when it came to the phone. It has nothing to do with the phone. It has to do with the HOH comp. But I thought with this phone, like we were going to get some crazy reveal, like there'd be like a triple eviction or something like that. We'll get into what it actually means. But Arisa really kind of hypes this up, and I don't think it should have been because it didn't really... Yeah, we'll get into it.
It was very disappointing.
Yeah.
Hermon is shocked Gino actually put up Kyle and is glad, but is glad he did it regardless.
Yeah.
Gino feels Kyle left him with no choice and he had to do what was best for his game.
Which, I mean, he's not wrong. Kyle did kind of
not wrong. Summer and Betty celebrate that this actually happened.
Yes.
That was adorable.
Oh, yeah.
Kevin talks to Jess and says the only problem with Kyle is being up is that he's going to lie as much as he can. I can't see because your name's covering it. As he can to the point where they could go over him. But he reassures them he will vote for them to stay. Kyle talks to Gino and tells him he respects his decision and wants to disassociate from Gino and JL after this week.
Which this was like a really weird move for Kyle. Like I don't at this point it's like, can you be consistent with anything? Literally anything. He made a final 3 with JL and Gino, probably the only solid alliance that he had, and now he just wants to like disassociate from them entirely. Like I just don't get it. I just don't get it when it comes to Kyle.
Like, he's not loyal.
He's just playing so terribly, and he does absolutely nothing to save himself here.
He's awful.
He really is.
Kyle talks to Haleena, and she is surprised that Gino put him up. She says she felt like the way he was talking to her was talking down to her. And he brings up how he was trying to share the information, which she says he wasn't, and she didn't feel involved with anything. And there is something much bigger happening, and she just felt like a pawn in his game.
Yeah, I really like the way Haleena like called him out for this, because he was kind of like talking down to her and things like that. It really did show kind of like the effect of what's going to happen. I think there was something that he didn't really think that much of, and it's really coming back to haunt him. So I like that Haleena like really just like kind of gave it to him and said like, you did this to me, and I'm not going to give you that courtesy this time. You didn't give me courtesy. I'm not going to give you courtesy.
I really like how Haleena handled that.
Yeah. The one thing I will say that they did not show is that she was pushing very hard for Hermon to go this week.
Yeah.
And it didn't quite work out for her in the way that she wanted.
I mean, she's definitely pushing hard for him, but not as much as like Jess and Kevin and all them.
Yeah, so I don't know if we're going to see more of that.
Apparently, people think that Jess is like obsessed with him.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of have to be because Hermon really wants them out.
Well, Hermon doesn't want Haleena out.
No, Hermon really wants Jess out though.
Oh yeah. Apparently Kevin and Haleena don't, or sorry, Kevin and Hermon don't. I think it's Kevin, Hermon, and like Gino or someone don't like Jess.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens there, but that is something I do want to quickly bring up because it wasn't really touched upon in this episode. But yeah, Haleena was pushing for Hermon to go this week, and it didn't work out.
Well, I mean, it does make sense. He is in a good spot. So I mean, she's just kind of threatened by his game, but like, yeah. He says moving forward, if he survives, he's going after Marty. Jess talks to JL, and they both talk about just how strategic Kyle is, and they praise JL for making that decision. How is he strategic?
Yeah, I think he's too strategic is what they're saying. Like he's not really social in any way. Like he's very game body.
He really is.
Yeah.
They feel they are a punching bag, and they make it known. Summer has a conversation with Marty about systematic racism and how relevant it still is today. Okay, I really like this moment because with Summer, Marty, Haleena, and Jess, it was just a really important one.
Yeah, this was a good moment. I like this a lot.
Yeah.
I think stuff like this is always very important. I always say with like, diverse casts and things like that, it's like we're able to have like these kind of conversations, and I'm glad they had something like this.
I just think it's really important, and just it needs to be.
Yeah.
Like, it needs to be known.
Yeah.
Everyone is confused when the phone starts ringing, and they keep getting calls from people hyping them up and
Oh God.
how they are the best group of house guests.
So
This
I
event.
do.
Mhm.
I do want to bring this up for a little bit. Yeah, I'm so like I said, Arisa was like really hyping up that like, oh, the phone's ringing, and we've kind of like, you know, been hearing about the phone, and I thought something really big was going to happen here. And it's not really the case. What we get instead is very disappointing. But Ali, go ahead.
All right. This eventually results in Kevin taking a bath in spaghetti. They are told in performing the task they have stocked the pantry and are off slot for the week.
Yeah, so basically this was the return of my favorite part of Thursday evictions in BB Can, the fucking tasks that they have to do.
This was just so random. Like, they hyped up the phone for nothing.
Yeah, I don't know why this was even in the episode. They could have easily like cut this out, and like we didn't need this at all. Like, it was just kind of pointless. And I don't know why they hyped this up so much. And you guys know I already don't like the tasks. So like, you know, oh yeah, that was true. Yeah, Summer and Gino were like handcuffed together for the week, and Betty had to like not talk. There was like an hour task going on. There was a lot of like wild shit happening this week. They all had to take like cold showers and things like that. I thought it was like the start of like some April Fool's prank, but it seems like it didn't really go much of anywhere. So I don't know if we're going to see it next week, if that's going to like continue into something, but yeah, they didn't show like any of that. They really just, they kind of dropped the ball in this episode with some things. Oh, yeah, it's me. So Jess says this is a really bad moment for Jess. They talk about how they haven't campaigned much to anyone because they want Kyle to sink himself. They've been having one-on-ones, but they're also certain what will happen. Look, here's the thing I will say. Yeah, Kyle's going. It's obvious that Kyle's going. He's sinking. He sunk his ship last week. He's not doing anything to save himself. But if you are on the block, you still should be campaigning, like no matter what happens. And it's not just like,
even if you're not leaving, you should still campaign.
It's not just to save yourself for this week either. It's to, you know, make deals and, you know, solidify things so you're good in like the next week. And Jess didn't do that at all here. And I feel like I said this to you, Ali, like if anyone else was on the block next to Jess this week, I think Jess would have gone like 100% because they did not even try to campaign.
Jess would definitely leave against probably like Marty or someone.
Yeah, they really just did not do a good job.
If the noms didn't win veto, then I'm sure Jess would have left.
Their biggest issue, I think, in the game is whenever they are under pressure or like are like vulnerable in terms of leaving, they just like they just completely shut down. And I think this is a perfect example of that. So yeah, I mean, just not a very good moment for Jess at all. So JL and Gino talk about how much Kyle wants to disassociate from them and how they need to make sure that Kyle goes, but they're paranoid because of what happened last week that things could potentially change. I don't know why they had this fear. Like, I think it was pretty much a done deal that like Kyle was going to go. Honestly, I think this mattered more for Jess. Like, if Jess had this fear, I could understand that because of what happened with Stephanie last week. But JL and Gino, like, Gino's literally HOH. Gino should not be having this fear right now that this is going to happen. I just didn't really understand this. But Kyle talks to Hermon and says keeping him around is good so people can restructure their relationships. And he says that he can stay covered in the mess and that he's on the outs. And he makes it clear that Marty is his number one target. I thought it was very funny that he keeps talking about how like Marty's his target when like literally he pulled Marty into an alliance last week. And now he's just like, again, just like throwing that away. Really not doing much to save himself at all. We get to the eviction and Kyle gives a speech saying how, oh yeah, I do want to talk about someone, Kyle, that really pissed me off. There was a moment where they had this scene with Kyle and he was like, so like distraught because it's like, oh, this was a lifelong dream and it's being ripped away from me. It's like, dude, you literally just heard about this game last year. Like, fuck off. Like, this is not anything close to a lifelong dream. You didn't even know what Big Brother was until last year. This was just so performative. Yeah,
he's just very performative, and he really is. He's trying to make it look like he's a super fan when he's not.
No, yeah, he's trying to be the super fan. He's trying to make himself look like this great guy, and it just, I did not feel it for a second, especially when it comes to his eviction speech, because he talks about how transformative this experience was, and he makes some really half-assed, like, exploitative speech about mental health and how important it was. And they didn't show this on, like, the episode, but I guess last night he did this whole, like, sort of, like, seminar of sorts where, like, he had a bunch of the house guests, like, talking about, like, their mental health and, like, really personal things that they didn't really want to talk about. And it feels like
he basically forced them.
Yet knowing who Kyle is, it does kind of feel like he did that in a way to stay. And I'm sorry if you have to, like, use someone's, like, trauma to, like, you know, find a way to stay in the house. That's really fucking gross. And I really don't like the fact that he tried
mental health is like a serious thing, and he's just using it for podcast stuff.
Yeah, especially him being this, like, mental health expert and things like that. If he actually cared about mental health, he would understand that's, like, a very difficult subject for a lot of people. And the fact that he, like, I get that he wants to, like, speak freely about it and things like that, but it's like some people don't, and he needs to, like, recognize that. So I don't know, that just really rubbed me the wrong way, especially in his eviction speech, for sure.
It really rubs me the wrong way. Like, I don't, like, I went from liking him at first to, like, disliking him.
Yeah, he really, like, sunk any type of likability he had, like, in seconds, I think, last week. But
he's very performative.
Yeah, I mean, so after creating so much chaos in the house, Kyle's reign of terror does finally end. He's evicted, and it's a unanimous vote, which honestly, like, we usually don't like unanimous votes, but I think it's pretty funny that this was the first unanimous vote of the entire season.
Just that's what happens. That's what happens when you fuck your game over.
Yeah. So, and he's sent in the exact same placement as the Kyle Moore of last season, which is just honestly really pathetic. Like, I do think I think if Kyle had done things a lot differently, he could have actually gotten pretty far in this game. But because he literally, like, did everything wrong, let paranoia get the best of him, like, that's why he ended up going the way he did. I do want to bring up this last thing he did, because before he leaves the house, he makes up this whole thing that, like, oh, well, what you guys don't know is that night one, I was given a power and it would have caused me to be instantly evicted. And now it's back in the house. And I don't know what he was trying to do here. Like,
I don't know. He was probably trying to cause some paranoia,
I guess, but, like, I don't think they bought it, and I don't think it's going to work.
I don't think they bought it at all.
Because I feel like if that was actually a thing, like, he probably would have talked about it more up till now. Yeah. So, like, yeah, this was dumb. I don't know what he was trying to do.
So weird.
Yeah, so he talks about with Arisa how, like, his game never stops until he walks out the door, and he wants them to be just as paranoid as he was, and he's very proud to be part of this experience. And this was very odd to me. He talks about, like, his winner picks, and, you know, everyone else, when they've said their winner picks, they've said, like, Summer, Haleena, they've said, like, Betty, but he gives out 4 of the most random names. He says he says Josh, which, like, okay, I could see Josh winning.
I could see Josh.
I could. But then he says Jess, who, like,
I don't see Jess making it past, like, firster.
And then he says Gino, which is like, no. And then JL. And I'm like, what? Like, I don't understand these names at all. Like, how he thinks, like, any of them have, like, potential to win. Gino and JL especially are playing so bad. Honestly, the only one
who has potential to win is Josh.
Yeah, honestly, out of those 4, like, the other 3 have almost no chance, especially Gino and Jacey-Lynne. Just very odd all around. And again, just made him look very performative because, you know, of who he ended up choosing here. They didn't show this on the show either, but Kyle did talk about in his HOH reign that he wanted to pit, like, the POCs against, like, the white people in the house. So again, just a lot of ugly things about Kyle that I'm very happy we don't have to.
It's very gross and problematic.
Yeah, we don't have to see him anymore. We don't have to think about Kyle more anymore.
I mean, honestly, the only time we'll see him is probably at the finale.
Yeah, I love where Betty was like, the only thing he's gonna get to do is like nod his head.
Yes.
Yeah, that was great. You could see, and I like that we actually got goodbye messages as well, because we haven't gotten those
So
in a little bit. And I love how Betty talked about how much he like talked down to her and how happy she was to vote him out. Summer's like smile and things like that. It was so good. So many good goodbye messages all around.
I love that.
So we get to the next HOH of the season, and we hear that the doors have now been unlocked, and they have to race to the house and discover which has been unlocked, and they only have 4 minutes to study before returning to their trivia booths, and then it cuts off. We don't get to see this HOH, which
I'm so sad. We have to wait till Monday.
This was so frustrating because you're bringing back all these alumni and things like that, and it's like you're hyping it up, and like, did you really need to show Kevin and fucking spaghetti? Like, you could have cut that out. Did you really need to show like other stuff in this episode? You could have cut that out. Like, did we need that moment of Kyle being like, "Oh, this is such a lifelong dream"? Like, no, you could have cut that out. Just show this, like, show the HOH. I didn't understand this. This was, I don't know why they didn't show the HOH here. We do know who the HOH is. I don't know who the legends are. But we are going to talk about the HOH.
I was reading some tweets, and like I do know I think I know who some are. I don't know how true it is, but
what did you hear?
Hold on. It was,
I haven't heard anything.
What I heard, let me find that. Hang on. I think like I'm trying to find one of the tweets. Hang on. I found some tweets earlier. I think I saw like some were like Victoria or Jed or I don't know. There's a bunch of people that I was hearing.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, I'm excited to see who it ends up being, because I think that's going to be very exciting. Okay. We'll talk about the HOH later on, but okay. Yeah. Godfrey, Anthony, Jed, Cindy. That's an interesting lineup.
Very interesting lineup. But I mean, I'm here for it.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's really everything to talk about. We're officially caught up, Allie, so that's very exciting.
Wait, now that the viewers know who the HOH is, let's just do a prediction of who do you think the noms are going to be.
Yeah, so Jess is the HOH. We'll just go ahead and say that now.
Obviously we'll talk about it, of course, with the episode, but
prediction of who they're going to put up. I mean, honestly, I do think Hermon is probably going to go up. I don't know who else they're going to put up, though. That's the thing. Like, I think obviously Kevin and Josh are probably good.
Yeah, I was reading some tweets that I think Hermon and Moose are in trouble. But apparently Jess is already pissing people off.
I see them flaming out.
I also saw a tweet that like Marty's safe too. Like they're keeping him safe.
Interesting. I see Jess flaming out. Like, I see this being a really disastrous HOH for Jess, because I already talked about how, like, whenever they're under pressure, they're not good at all. And I think we're going to see the worst qualities of their game.
I don't want Hermon or Moose to go pre-jury. But
no, like, I don't either.
I feel like Jess is definitely leaving next.
Yeah, I don't see this going well for Jess at all, but we'll have to see what ends up happening. And
also Kevin and somebody else hate Jess.
Yeah. Either way, that's it for this week of Big Brother Canada. I'm happy that we're now caught up now. But
we're all caught up. Yay.
Yes. Of course, look forward to our coverage for Survivor 42. Lots of crazy shit going down in that show. We're definitely going to get into all of that. We will eventually be covering Beyond the Edge, but definitely not till the season.
We're just going to do a season review of that.
Yeah, because that show so far, not a fan.
I will say the second episode was a little better, but it was still kind of
not by much. Yeah.
I'm gonna say the highlights were Lauren, Craig, and Jody.
Yeah. Other than that,
and I was sad for Meta.
Yeah. Other than that, that's it for our review of this week of Big Brother Canada. As always, comment down below. Let us know what you guys thought of this week's episode. That's over this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We will see you guys in our next video, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.
Have a good night.
And we're actually on time.
Yes.
Yes.